Welcome to the official launch listening party for my new EP, Another Nice Mess. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to try and give you a sort of background introduction to how this EP came about, and also a little insight into each of the songs and how they got to be written. Some of you probably know that earlier this year, my good friend Alex Seal and I were just about to embark on our Circle Tour 2020, meeting up with some of the best and my favourite musicians to present a lot of songwriter circles. We only managed to do one concert, but the audience were great and we were feeling so good about the next concerts coming up. But over the next 2 weeks, news started to come through of the COVID infection and things got pretty ominous, and in the end we took the decision to cancel. It was the right thing to do. We cancelled before we got cancelled, and I don't know what else we would have done really. So many musicians and others involved in the music industry, from studios, venue operators, managers, staff, agents, promoters, they're all in the same boat, suddenly seeing their income sink to nothing. Luckily I'm fully employed and therefore furloughed and still with some sort of income. And as the internet got flooded with musicians trying to find a new way to reach their audience and perhaps make a few quid, I decided to leave that space for them. But I did need something to work on, so I started to think I wasn't really in a very singing sort of mood, and there were some recordings that I'd made last year with George Arnold, just on one day in the late autumn, I think, early winter, and we decided that actually they were good enough to work up into releasable tracks. We were just going to use them as demos to live with, give us ideas, maybe send them to other musicians to see if they wanted to collaborate. But we did listen to them again and we thought, you know, these are good enough, we can work these up into something. And so I picked 4 of them, and I thought they vaguely shared something thematic, very vaguely. And I sent 2 of them to Lucas Drinkwater in Stroud, and left 2 with George to add instruments as they felt fit, with a little bit of input from me. And I've worked those up into the 4 songs and made videos that you'll see today. It's a tenuous link, this connection between the songs. It's about my philosophy of life, really, which I don't know if anybody's interested, but they all sort of show different things that I've come to the conclusion. First one is, don't expect it all to make sense. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and I'm fascinated by the way things work, but I also don't really think you can influence a lot of it, especially the illogicality and madness of it all, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. This is a song I wrote some years ago when I was back in the Middle East, which could be quite a crazy place to live. And I decided that a lot of the decisions I'd made in my life were a bit odd, but they'd all turned out well, and I don't regret any of them really. Technically, I also wanted to write a song in that sort of conversational way that I admire so much in Joni Mitchell. I always think the last time I saw Richard was in Detroit in '68, and he told me all romantics meet the same fate. It's one of the best opening lines I know of, and I love the way she uses normal speech patterns until the word same, where she does same, to introduce the first sort of song thing, which is a rhyme, and it's very natural and clever, and I've always wanted to do that, so I did have that in my mind when I made this song, which is Don't Expect It All to Make Sense.
My sleeve. I never made plans to get up and leave. Just a moment of madness, no attempt to deceive. mixed in with the sadness, there's a sense of relief. The smile on my face is hanging by a thread. I hate the empty space next to me in my bed. I shot myself in the foot and got a spring in my step. When I knew you'd gone for good, the better I slept. Don't expect it all to make sense. Don't build up your defense when you're not in control. Go with the roll and put it down to experience. But don't expect it all to make sense. Don't sit on the fence when you're washed by the tide. Go along for the ride. Don't hide, don't fall. Don't expect it all to make sense. Don't expect it all to make sense. Don't build up your defense when you're not in control. Just go with the roll and put it down to experience. But don't expect it all to make sense. Don't sit on the fence when you're washed by the tide. Go along for the ride. Don't hide, don't fall. Don't expect it all. Don't hide, don't fall. Don't expect it all to make sense. Blood on my hands and my heart on my sleeve.
So the next track was a relatively new song. I'd only written it a couple of days before George and I recorded it, and it comes from the memory of a weekend house sitting for a friend, and they never told me that their Wi-Fi didn't work and that there was no mobile phone signal, there was nothing on TV, and they had one DVD, which was a compilation of Laurel and Hardy movies. Never really watched them, even though they were always on telly when I was a kid. So I sat down, watched them, thought they were absolutely brilliant. And I also started to notice something that I hadn't noticed before, which is the way that although, you know, Hardy is driven to absolute apoplexies of frustration and anger by Stan Laurel, he never shows any sign that he's going to give up or abandon his friend. It's never even suggested that he won't stick around to get them out of the mess that Laurel has caused. There's no question who's caused it. Blame is apportioned appropriately, but that's not the end of the story. I also wanted to change the way I was writing. My songs are sometimes very long, and I've deliberately tried to focus much more on shorter songs. This one is basically one verse with a long instrumental beginning. There's no chorus, and I quite like that. So this is Another Nice Mess.
We all like to point the finger at anyone who disagrees, but I don't like it, not one little bit, when the finger's pointed back at me. But you can't just stand in the middle. Sometimes things are black and white, and compromise is a coward's fiddle when the time comes to pick a side. So you take a stand and you hold your ground. You understand that it's gonna bring you down. 'Cause even if one side gets what it wants, neither side can win. Another nice mess you've got us into. Another nice mess we're in. Another nice mess you've got us into. Another nice mess we're in.
So coming up is the first of two songs that I did with Lucas. The first one is Headlong. It continues a theme that I explored a bit on my last album, State of My Hair. People from the past popping up unexpectedly and not always in a very welcome way. In this case it was an old lover from a time when I was living a pretty chaotic, wild life in London. Lots of things I don't remember about that fuddle-headed time, but it's probably a time that's responsible for creating who I am today. I'm interested in memory and memories and how they change and how they're not really a very good reflection of what actually happened, and that they're more creative narratives that we tell ourselves and we convince ourselves that that's what happened, when in fact it may well not be like that at all, and it certainly wasn't like that from another point of view. I think that's equally true probably about bigger things, global history, politics. So a lesson there. Lucas came up with the lovely guitar solo and the idea for the organ, which I just loved when I first heard it, and it's what I think makes the song very special today. It's great working with Lucas and George. They kind of get me, I think, and they kind of throw things at me which I would never have thought of. I usually love it. We make a few tweaks and it's kind of done. It's a really easy way of working for me. I hope you like the result.
It was easy at first, our unquenchable thirst brought out the worst, but it was fun at the time. We never listened to sense, or we were so intent on rushing headlong over every line. I got your message today, and I couldn't wait to hear what you had to say, and to see how time might have changed the person I knew. 'Cause it always seemed to me that I was following you blind. So it's strange to find that in your mind I was leading you. When I think of the ways we lived our lives, it's a wonder that either of us survives. So when this answer arrives, I hope you will share my view. That it wasn't worth the price. Well, except maybe once or twice. Still, it's nice to know that I'm still remembered by you. Oh yes, it's nice to know that I'm still remembered by you.
Well, to round off the EP is a song called The Water. It's another song I wrote some time ago, and I think it expresses another aspect of a philosophy that I've developed over the years, which is really trying to be very clear to myself about what I'm responsible for and what I'm not, and where I can be absolutely responsible for making people unhappy through neglect or cruelty or just nastiness. I can't really be held responsible for their happiness. That's not my job. I hope that people feel happy if I do something, but I can't be responsible for that. That's up to them. And I think I've tried to live a life where I try to avoid making people deliberately unhappy, but I can't look after their happiness. That's really for them. It's a feeling I have, and that's what the song's about. It's called The Water.
Joy. You're gonna have to learn to find all that kind of stuff for yourself. I've nothing to deploy in my defense, but in spite of everything, you still think we can win, while you've still only put one foot in the water. And you might make me smile, and that might be more than enough for a while, but it won't take us the extra mile. And if you really must keep talking about trust, you'll need the feet of a saint to get across the water. All our friends are gathering like black storm clouds, but it only started mattering when the noise from the crowd got much too loud. Bring you joy. You're gonna have to learn to find all that kind of stuff for yourself. I've nothing to deploy in my defense, but in spite of everything, you still think we can win, while you've still only put one foot in the water.
Well, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the music and the videos, found perhaps one or two things I said a bit interesting. If you'd like a copy of the EP, it's only available from one place. It's for download from bandcamp.com. Just search for Greg Hancock. There's a limited edition CD also available from that, but it is a limited edition. That contains an extra track, so you'll find everything on Bandcamp. I really hope it's not too long before I and other people can play for you live. We all miss it. I don't know if it will ever really get back to how it was, but in any case, all we can do is what we can do. Look after yourself. Hope to see you soon. Don't expect it all to make sense.